Thanks again, Alex, for hopping on to another episode of Untapped Stories. I know we were chatting a bit before show, and obviously did a lot of research on your background. Awesome career in golf, awesome career in coaching. But for our audience, we typically like to at the beginning of these interviews take it all the way back to your early athletic days because we have a lot of parents and young athletes who listen to this. So maybe for the audience, if you could just share to get the ball rolling, what were sports like? If it was just golf or a lot of sports for you growing up, and how did that early athletic development really shape the coach and and mentor you became?
Yeah, for sure. So my upbringing was baseball and hockey. Like right from an early age, I played those two sports, and
Oh wow.
and it was kind of like a secondary summer sport, if you will.
Okay.
Like where I grew up, we're dealing with maybe a 4 month summer, absolutely no opportunity to do any golf in the winter. So hockey was always the winter sport of choice. And then maybe I think I was 13 or 14 that I got a job at a private golf course, and that got me access. Because prior to that, it was like around here and there, but nothing too serious.
Okay.
So I got access to a golf course, practiced every day, got a proper set of golf clubs, and then I was really hooked from that point going forward.
That's really cool. And I guess maybe for the multi-sport athlete topic, I know it's a hot one for parents. For you growing up, do you feel like having played baseball and hockey before you really found your main sport set the stage well, or do you wish if you could go back in time, would you have started golf maybe like a Tiger Woods from age 3 and done nothing else but that?
No, I personally wouldn't change a thing. I think that the multi-sport upbringing, at least in my case, was a massive benefit for the proficiency to which I was able to learn golf. Like I went from no experience at all to breaking 80 in a couple of years.
Oh wow.
No, it was a quick learning curve because I was a good baseball and hockey player, and I had the hand-eye coordination. I was good at sponging from others,
Okay.
find the good players at the club and learn off of them. I didn't really have lots of formal coaching. I think I only technically had 2 golf lessons in my life.
Oh wow.
So it was more so like just learning from those around me and trial and error myself. And when you've come from a multi-sport background, I think you have a bit more of that athletic intuition.
Yep.
Like the idea of trial and error maybe doesn't scare you as much. It's like, oh, well, this does that, and if I try this, well, that doesn't work. Let me try something else. And kind of the grind, as we call it now, that was something that I just loved. I loved whether it was going onto the course solo or going to the range and just trying to figure stuff out. And to me, the idea of maybe growing up with only ever one sport, I think it would have been a lot more challenging. I definitely would have needed a lot more support growing up and guidance and why to try this and what to do with that. But no, I was very fortunate in the sports that I had, because obviously you could come from sports that maybe don't translate to golf that well. Like coming from baseball and hockey, those are definitely two that they overlap really well.
Definitely.
Like in an interesting way basically an athletic standpoint. I grew up playing hockey left-handed, and I bat left-handed at baseball,
Okay.
but I golf right-handed.
Interesting.
And in an interesting way, that's actually helped me.
Because I've heard a lot. I'm a baseball player growing up myself. A lot of people try switch hitting. I know it's a tough thing to do in baseball if you can go both sides. Sounds like you didn't for baseball, but you sort of did for golf and baseball. What would your, and not that every athlete has to do that, but what would your message be to parents and athletes who really want to be proficient in golf? It's not their main sport. Do you think trying something like baseball, switch hitting, getting access to both sides of the plate, would that help you in golf just from like a balance and kind of like you said, athletic intuition standpoint?
Yeah, I think that in most sports, athletes are going to have their dominant side. And if somebody was a right-handed batter in baseball, I wouldn't necessarily say, okay, I want you to try to hit from the other side of the plate. But I think it is important to be able to, especially as you are getting a little bit older and you can start to maybe comprehend the mechanics a bit more, just understanding, okay, so golf pattern, this movement makes sense. Baseball pattern, that movement. We've got to be able to kind of turn the page. I think it would be quite a daunting task to tell somebody, especially at a later age, listen, you got to try it from the other side. I don't know if I want to be told that.
Not very fair. I'm the same, but I had a buddy who tried that, and it did not go well for him. I think he quit baseball like a year later. His dad thought it was a great idea, but it definitely wasn't.
Yeah.
What about, so maybe past the middle school age, you figured out golf, and honestly, I mean, you you breaking 80 on your own without many lessons. If I tell that, and I'll show this to my buddies afterwards, they will be very jealous that you did that. We've all been trying for probably a decade now and haven't even cracked 90. But how did you go from realizing you were good at golf and it was, could be a career for you, could be a passion for you, and then really fine tuning your game? I mean, at that point, it sounds like you didn't even get lessons, but what were you doing to always consistently work on your craft beyond just, working at the course as a teenager and picking up a round here and there?
I think that was really it. Just the fact that I was constantly immersed with every single day. As soon as the golf course was open, probably by end of April, right up until things would have shut down by maybe start of October. Like, even if there was still some snow on the ground, we were out there practicing. And I was grinding. I was obsessed, absolutely obsessed with it. So I'd say probably from 16-ish onwards, there wasn't a day that I didn't have a club in my hands. And I was constantly trying to find the best players around me to try to compete with and to try to learn from and to sponge off of. And I think that was probably kind of the infancy of my obsession with just wanting to know why things work the way they do in the golf swing. I think now that one of my biggest sort of benefits in my development was the fact that I didn't have a ton of people telling me, you need to do this, you need to do that. I was finding those answers. Like, I was having to go ask people. I was having to go, dig it out of the dirt and figure out, okay, how do I hit this fade? How do I hit this draw? How do I hit one low? How do I hit one high? What do I do when the ball's sitting down in the bunker? Like, I had to really figure that stuff out on my own. Sure, I had, Golf Digest articles and stuff like that, but this is pre-YouTube, pre-Instagram. Didn't have the access to information like we do now. So much of it was just like truly trial and error.
And if in that time period in life too, not just golf, but a lot of athletes we hear about, when you dive into a sport fully at 13, 14, sounds like for you it was 16. I think that for parents, the issue of burnout is a real factor. I mean, a lot of parents worry about their kids focusing on just one sport. How did you avoid burnout if it sounds like you played or had at least had a golf club in your hands every single day?
Well, I think one benefit in growing up in part of Canada that I grew up in Saskatchewan is that it's almost more difficult to have burnout when the season is as short as it is. In a way, like if we had a 12-month season and we could have golfed all year round, I think burnout's a lot easier. And that's when you have to find healthy distractions. You have to find things that take your mind off the sport. And it's not like a day off is going to obviously hurt progress. Like, just like going to the gym, you try to slam one body part 7 days in a row, you kind of defeat the purpose. Like, you need that recovery period. And the same thing works in sport. Like, you do need healthy distractions. It's going to keep you more focused in the long run. And I work with some very, very dedicated juniors that often telling them to take a day off is like the worst news they could possibly hear. And that's kind of the one curse of having that unlimited access. Again, it was kind of a benefit for me that the season was so short that it was almost difficult to burn out, because eventually snow falls and it's like, now I'm itching to get back at golf for the next 6-8 months. And then as soon as the opportunity comes to actually play again, it's like, okay, we're going to lock in. But with people that do have unlimited access, you need to be able to find those like warning signs, like whether it is fatigue, whether it's like, okay, this just isn't enjoyable right now. As soon as it feels like work, especially for a junior, as soon as like they lose that joy, it's like, okay, we need to go to a movie. We need to just take a day off. You don't touch your golf clubs. This is actually going to be good for you in the long run.
I think and I'm glad you brought up the fact that you coach a lot of juniors. I mean, that's primarily the age demographic that we reach through Athletes Untapped. So I think one big thing when it comes to young athletes and parents, it's social media nowadays, and always having to compare yourself to either your peers or like the best golfers in the world. Obviously, and we all know golf is such a mental game. When you're working with young athletes and the juniors that you do, how do you help them avoid, the typical pitfall of just chasing whoever they see on Instagram that day is the best shot or the best player, and kind of like focusing on just their game? Because we see it in other sports all the time where you watch a LeBron highlight, or maybe a feature on a rival from the crosstown high school gets put up, and you're like, I'm not there yet. I need to be, but we all know that everyone develops at their own pace. So how do you help athletes stay on track and not get distracted by the noise on social media?
Yeah, I can. I've got young kids too. Like we've got a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old, so we're not quite at that age where we're worried about any burnout or any like specific sport obsessions. But I can understand the pressure that the parents are under. If you've got a kid who is good at their sport, they're doing well. It's easy to compare to kids that might be the number one 8-year-old in the world, and they're winning every event they play in. And you look at your child and you go, if I want to give my kid every opportunity, as every parent does, it's like, what can I do to make sure that my kid can get to that level? And what I try to help parents understand is that we don't remember the best 8-year-olds in the world. Like in the end, that's not the objective, is to be the number one 10-year-old. The objective is hoping that kid actually evolves into a really good 18 to 40-year-old. Like that's really the window that we're looking at. And we have to treat it more with more responsibility. Obviously we want to push the kid and give the kid every opportunity to grow and develop. But if you just go pedal to the metal every single day when they're 10 years old, 8 years old, whatever the case, you're setting yourself up for burnout 9 times out of 10. And I've unfortunately witnessed a lot of cases of like really good preteens or early teens that they were phenoms. Like they were winning every tournament, rooms full of trophies, and then they end up quitting the game maybe they play a year or two of college, and then the interest's gone. Because as soon as they go from being that big fish in a small pond to the, maybe average size fish in a really, really big pond,
Yeah.
it's tough for the ego to take that. And if all you've ever done is win every single event that you've played in, as soon as you place fifth in a really good tournament, they're not used to that. Like they haven't experienced that before. And that's the sort of thing that to a lot of young brains is enough to really kill the joy. So I have these conversations a lot with the juniors that I work with, and the juniors and the parents. The conversations with the parents are usually the most difficult ones, because it's helping them to understand that their role is to be a parent. Like it's not to be the coach, and that's often a difficult conversation to start with. It's like, you just need to be mom. You just need to be dad. You don't need to always be asking your kid after every single tournament round, why did this bogey happen?
Yeah.
Why did you shoot 5 over par? These are conversations that are meant for the coach and the player. The conversations between mom and dad and son or daughter are like, how was your day? Like, did you enjoy today? What did you learn today? Like, we need to talk more about the human being, less about the athlete. Like, leave the athlete conversations to coach and kid.
I like that mentality. And I feel like we've heard that so many times. We actually just had a former NBA player, Michael Bradley, on last week, and he was talking about, for him, he kind of flipped it. So he went from best player in his local area in Boston in high school, scored like 40 points and 20 rebounds a game. Then he played at Kentucky, arguably the best basketball program in the country, and was like the 12th man on the roster, but loved the challenge of working his way up to a starter, then got to the NBA and was playing with all pro players, but still didn't hate it and like kind of grinded his way to become a journeyman in the NBA. I think for golf, it's probably even tougher to do that because, again, it's such a mental game. So when you're working with young athletes, how do you help them after a really bad loss or a bad tournament? How do you help them stay on the grind and just keep the fun and the energy alive? Because I'm sure it's so easy to get in your own head and kind of think that, one bad round dictates the rest of your career.
I think it's always about being able to put those logs in the fire. And in that case, after, let's say, a bad tournament round, it's about being able, once the player is in a healthy emotional state, like immediately after them walking off the 18th tee is not the time to be having these conversations.
Yeah. And
And unfortunately, this is what I often see with the parents, is that they start to poke at a really sensitive time. That child has just finished a rough day. They're probably like internal dialogue in their head is going off the charts in terms of their own disappointment and frustration, the last thing that they need is somebody poking the bear. Like, what they need is they just need an opportunity to either be completely distracted or just like on their own time, just letting things go. And that they will simmer down at their own pace, and we just need to kind of allow that to take place. But what I like to do is try to learn the lessons, like talk about the lessons that we can learn for the future, and then start to like adapt that to our plan. Okay, you had 39 putts. Why did that happen? Okay, was it a green speed issue? Did you struggle to adapt to the green speeds? Did you find that you were always above the hole and all your putts were lightning fast? Like, is there something that we can learn from that we can then take to the next tournament? Like, trying to, because we're always going to have, it's almost impossible that a kid's going to go play in a tournament and be like, I did everything perfect today.
Yeah.
There's always going to be something that either they're frustrated with or that held them back from getting to their kind of optimal score.
Makes sense.
So it's always about what can we learn? Like, yes, you only hit 3 fairways, you hit 2 drives out of bounds. Okay, where did you hit them? You hit them right. Okay, do we know why that happened? Okay, now we know exactly what we need to work on. And we find a way to loop it back to exciting them about like what we're going to be training.
I like that. Okay. So kind of taking, honestly, just a sidebar, those stats you mentioned, if I hit any of those stats, that would be a fantastic day for me. So you must be working with some really good golfers. but from those standpoint, I mean, you always have to learn from the lessons. You can't, and I kind of like the cool down period too. I think a lot of parents forget about that because they're so emotional and they see like and parents would, I mean, like it or not, they are investing a lot of their own time, their own money. You don't have to like objectively say that to the kid, but they should feel some emotion with it. But I think you have to even like coach yourself as a parent and know when the right time to step in is. Because like you said, after the 18th, your last putt, terrible day. It's just not the time to go like dive into it with the kid. Let them have their own time. I did want to come back to one thing you mentioned though, because I love the piece of an 8-year-old winning whatever world championship, huge tournament. It's not a huge deal. No one's, talking about that when they're 25, 30. So what's maybe one tip or even one part of your game that you think a young athlete or junior should be working on to really help them become that great 18 to 40-year-old player?
I would say with young players, especially nowadays, I have to say speed. Speed is going to be one of those things that what I see in terms of a fault with some young kids is this absolute obsession on hitting every shot perfect at the detriment of working on speed. And if you're a 10-year-old, 12-year-old, and you're getting frustrated because you've pulled your pitching wedge by 3 yards, it's like these are not the priorities right now. As kids are growing, they're also at a really, really key opportunity to be able to improve their potential for speed. And if you don't really work on speed as a young kid and you always are focused in on perfection and swinging, maybe at an intensity that's just like really, really smooth, and you never ever work on hitting the golf ball hard, it's going to be really difficult when that kid is 17, 18, 19, 20 to find speed.
Interesting.
So you can almost improve somebody's putting at any age. You can almost improve somebody's bunker play, their ability to hit draws or fades. You can do that stuff at any age. But speed's one of those things where if you haven't trained it as like a developing kid, it's really difficult once you've stopped growing.
How do you help those athletes actually improve the speed? Is it more of a physical thing? Is it more of a mental thing? Like how do you, 10, 11, 12-year-old kid who understands that tip and wants to actually improve it, what's the best way to go about it?
Number one, don't be afraid to hit it as hard as you can, especially when you're practicing. Like might only need to be 10%, 15% of your total practice time just hitting it like out of your shoes, swinging as hard as you possibly can, and doing it with less care over where the ball goes. Like when you swing it at, call it like 110% intensity, you're not going to be your most accurate self. Yeah. So the thing is that a lot of players, they hit one bad shot, and I've seen it sometimes where the parent watches the kid and maybe the kid's a little bit off balance and maybe they hit a slightly bad drive and the parent goes like, no, slow down. It's like, we've got to be able to understand that working on speed requires us to look a bit crazy at times. Like if you've ever tuned into like one of Bryson's speed sessions, he doesn't look like a golfer anymore. Now he looks like maybe more of like a football player, or maybe more of like a slightly higher intensity, athlete. Whereas, like, I think sometimes we put the golf hat on and it's like, okay, I need to be the perfect controlled golfer. And sure, that has its time and place, but not really if we're wanting to capitalize on speed opportunities.
I think that's so important, and I'm pumped to get that message out. Obviously, everything you said so far, but that in particular for parents, because as an adult, I mean, I have never coached golf. Obviously, based on what I've been saying, I'm not a great golfer. But for my son, when it's come time for him to play, if I ever had to give him a tip, I probably would say slow down, because they tell you that as an adult all the time. That's mostly for average adult golfers, I feel like. Maybe I'm taking a guess there, but I'm not going to improve my speed as a 32-year-old guy. Maybe I could, but like that's not the goal. The goal is to hit like good drives, be consistent, have a fun time. But if you're really trying to get better, you have to work on that. And just knowing, I mean, I'm equating it in my sports basketball, but like they always say, if you want to dunk, jump 100 times as high as you can and try to smack the backboard. It's like you have to do those things at the maximum capacity to really get to that level and improve it. Otherwise, you're always just going to be average athlete, average player, but you can't really hit the pinnacle of it if you're not doing that. So I love that message, and I hope a lot of people hear that.
For sure. Like when it comes to like a max output version in any sport, surely like there's gonna be a massive genetic component. Like if your child ends up being well above average height, 6'4", they have a huge advantage when it comes to speed development. Okay, if your child ends up being a 5'8" male or a 5'1" female, it's like, okay, maybe they're a little bit shorter on the stature, but still, like, golf's a sport where you can be maybe a little bit more undersized and still create tons and tons of speed. And often it's either the kids who grew up as multi-sport athletes, like I do think that that's a massive benefit in terms of speed development, or it's the kids who really weren't afraid to go all out when they were younger. A portion of the practice, let's call it like 15-20% ish. A portion of the practice should be dedicated to, okay, we're going to hit driver now, and the next 15 drives, I want you to have fun with these. I want you to swing as hard as you can, and we're going to, if we happen to have a measurement tool to measure things, we're going to see what your club head speed can get to. If we don't, it's like, okay, we're going to look at where your ball's finishing. I want you to get it past that flag. And just get the kid excited about swinging all out, because if we can get the brain firing, a lot of this is like what's happening up here.
Yep.
And just removing any sense of limitation, because we often cap ourselves.
Yeah. I'm sure it frees them up mentally too, like you said. I mean, it's if you're always worrying about perfect shot, perfect form, you're never really going to just let one rip, and you have to let them rip to actually become, I think, a really good golfer. And you mentioned Bryson when you were talking there. When you were mentioning the stature thing too, I've thought about Rory. I mean, Rory has such good speed, but he's not a huge golfer. So if you were a young athlete today with access, which most kids I'm assuming now do, to social media, to YouTube, who's one golfer you would want young athletes to emulate?
Ooh, great question. I love attitudes like, especially in terms of like a younger player on tour right now, a guy like a Minwoo Lee. I happen to be like a really, really big fan of his. I love his attitude. I love how he goes about the game. He's definitely one. Like, I mean, I don't think you're in a bad spot if you model yourself after Rory in terms of like his movement. I use him as an example. Not like I would expect everybody to move like him, but when I'm trying to educate players on how does let's say a slightly undersized golfer compared to others, how does he end up in like the top percent club head speed on tour? And this is why, like, these are the traits in his movement that allow him to be able to create the speed that he does. So I'll use certain examples for certain shot styles. Like, I'll often use Rory as like an example of a great driver of the golf ball. Let's look at his movement and learn from his movement. Okay, let's maybe as an iron pattern. Let's look at a Tommy Fleetwood pattern and what he does, especially with his short irons, how he kind of cuts off his finish a little bit. Like, what can we learn from that in terms of how he can sync things up? And then you might look at short game and look at maybe a Brett Rumford or various players who are like really masters of a certain craft and have really figured out how to do something at really the top level. So I think that there's great examples all around, and you're going to find golfers who have just like an amazing attitude that players can obviously learn from as well.
I love that the first thing that you said there, and I wasn't thinking that route, but it sounds like you've coached a lot of kids, I'm sure. The first thing you said was attitude. It's not, look at Scotty because he's consistent, or look at Rory because he's got a great drive. It's like the player that, and I saw you like have a smile with the two. It's just the first player mentioned, Min Woolley, has a great attitude, and if kids can emulate that, I'm sure probably by now, the rest of their game will just come easier. And you can always look at somebody for a quick tip, but if the positive energy is there, if they're not hanging their head, if they enjoy the game, I'm not going to make up a stat for how many extra shots that will get them, but I'm sure it leads to better days and better rounds when you actually are looking at things positively and not just sulking or having a bad time out there. So that's a good perspective, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the thing that we're not going to have any measurement tool for attitude, but it's one of those things where you see those kids that are going to last the long haul because they're enjoying it. They're enjoying the good days. Maybe they're frustrated with themselves when they have their poor days, but they're not bringing everybody down with them.
Yep.
And they're quickly able to look at the poor round and go, okay, what can I learn from this? And that's, golf's one of those sports that I've always found, like, growing up at a golf course at a younger age as well, you're constantly around people that are a lot older than you. And it often can speed up the maturity curve, especially like I've been around plenty of kids that are preteen, and you can have conversations with them like you can have conversations with adults because they've had to go out there with adults all the time and figure out how to chat and how to be polite and follow the golf protocol, and that quickly matures somebody. So if they've got a great attitude, like, people will enjoy being around them, and it's just incredible to see how much that can benefit them in life, period, even if they don't go on to play on tour.
Yeah. And I love what you mentioned there too, being a parent myself. I know you said you have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. I have a 2-year-old and a 9-month-old, so we're a little bit behind you guys. I always just think about this too. And my parents somehow, some way, I think, did it for me. I never was one of those kids that was throwing a trophy or crying after losses. I just kind of enjoyed playing, had fun. I mean, after a big loss, sure, I might be a little bit sad, but I never got too high with the highs, got too low with the lows. And I feel like in golf in particular, that's such like that is the way to succeed. No matter how good you are skill wise, like, you have to have the right mentality. What's maybe one for parents and athletes who want to help, bring this out in their kids? What's one consistent trait you've seen in young athletes who have that mentality when they're in elementary or middle school? Is it a resilience thing? Is it a grit thing? Is it something that comes from the parents who think directly to the kids? Like, how do you essentially breed that way to make sure that an athlete is, staying even keel at all times?
Yeah, I often do see things with the parents that can kind of highlight this, and I think are definitely big influencers. So you said something maybe 5 minutes ago that I'd want to kind of link this back to. And obviously, as parents supporting their kids through athletic development, it's costly, it's time consuming. Okay, that goes without saying. It's going to cost a lot of money and it's going to take a lot of time. If you ever mention that to your kid, you might as well just throw away their future. That is the worst thing you can ever tell a child, is that the time that you've been spending with them, on them, the money, and make them feel guilty for it. I have unfortunately witnessed it before where kids are carrying the financial guilt and almost the time guilt from their parents. And that, again, that is a recipe for disaster, as it goes without saying. We've got to make sure that the kids know that we are there as part of their team. We are there to support them. And this is a journey that is 100% up to them. We're not going to force them to do this. If they love the game, if they want to learn and continue to challenge themselves in the game, we're going to do whatever we possibly can. And if they don't want to play, they don't want to go, boom, done. It doesn't need to keep going. The drive needs to come from them. So the word grit is something that it's one of those difficult things to train somebody to have grit. Kids have it. You see it. You see the kids who they can maybe fail at something, or they can maybe not achieve the goal that they wanted, but the ones that are able to get over that and learn from it and move forward, those are the ones. And sometimes that does take some grooming, and we can certainly have conversations with those players in terms of maybe if they are struggling to get over things, and if they are maybe, I think a lot of the times if they're struggling to get over it, they're attaching that performance to their own self-worth too much. And it's getting to the point that no matter how good you are at this game, you're going to have your bad days. And like, I try to help the golfer and the parent understand that it's not going to be as simple as you shot 74 on a Saturday in the tournament, so therefore you're going to shoot 74 on the Sunday. Like, a lot of people really struggle to understand that there's a possibility that you can go shoot 68 on the Sunday, you can go shoot 79 on the Sunday. Yeah. And it sort of depends on an infinite number of things, and that's just golf. That's just the reality of the sport that we've chosen to play.
We actually had, I'm super glad you highlighted that. We had a parent on a couple weeks ago, and we posted the video. The best clip we had from the entire back and forth was her saying, and she was a hockey parent, that she's witnessed parents in the parking lot yelling at kids saying, I paid for this tournament, like, why aren't you trying harder, doing better? And I think her exact quote was, if you're doing that, like, just leave. Just go on the plane, get in the car, get back to wherever you came from, and don't come back, because you're going to ruin the experience for the kids and their teammates too. I know golf's maybe a little bit different. It's an individual sport, but I'm sure you're around other kids. Like, it just brings down the vibe of everyone there. So yeah, I'm fully on board with that. I'm lucky my parents never did that, but I just feel for kids who have that situation. And if parents can hear the message not to do it, and I'm sure in somehow, some way, they maybe think it's helping, but at the end of the day, it's really not. And what about actually playing in a round? So say if you have a Saturday, Sunday slate, you start off really bad. First couple of holes don't go the way you planned. You're a couple shots behind. How do you help players bounce back quickly? And maybe, I know, like, after the round, kind of already chatted about that, you have to simmer down, learn from what it is. But like, when you're in the thick of it, how do you bounce back from 3 really bad rounds and then finish the rest of the next 15 incredibly strong?
Yeah, that call it golfing maturity, the ability to like recognize when you're spiraling, and maybe you've had a rough start, and maybe it's from things that are kind of outside of our control. Like, that's the thing about the sport, is that we can do a lot of good things and still almost be penalized. We can hit good shots and end up in divots. We can, things can happen. And the big thing is being able to recognize when you're out of your routine or you're out of your comfort zone and you just need a reset. So sometimes that can just be, okay, you've had a bad first hole, and it's how you're breathing. You start noticing that you're breathing shorter. You're breathing at a faster pace. Your posture's changed. You're walking quicker. It's being able to recognize that, like, we have a lot of physiological ways that we can control our state. Like, we need to get back to that state where we make good decisions. We have a clear mind. We are operating in our normal routine. And that there's a lot of things that are linked to that. So you can typically, especially when you're watching junior golfers, you'll see that if they've maybe had a couple poor holes, you can see it in their body language. And it's the sort of thing where, again, what I would want to then communicate to that student, because I'm not going to want to do that mid-round. I would observe it, and then I'd have the conversation with them after the fact and say, like, I really noticed that your body language changed after that double bogey on the 3rd hole. Okay, how did it make you feel? What was going on inside your head as you were walking from that 3rd green to the 4th tee? Like, were you chatting with yourself? Was there some negative self-talk? Maybe what could we do different? And we're really, like, I want that golfer to come up with strategies, whether it's things like, okay, I just want to be able to focus on my next shot. Like, that's usually kind of the cliche thing, is the one shot at a time. Okay, let's make sure that we're only focused on the next shot that we have. And it's typically the best way for us to operate. If we're thinking about stuff that's happened in the past, we're typically frustrated at maybe mistakes we've made. If we're thinking too far ahead into the future, we're probably stressed out at what could happen. It's like, stay present. That's generally going to be the best mind state for all of us, whether that's in life or on the golf course. So it is being able to recenter, whether it's, we can do lots of things in terms of, like, put little code words into their yardage book that kind of signal a reset. Okay. And it's like, okay, this is our code word. If you ever find that you're getting a little bit kind of out of your vibe, out of your routine, it's like, just read this and maybe say this word aloud, like something that just sort of triggers a reset. So there's a lot of strategies that we can do there just to get these players aware of the fact that maybe this bad stretch of holes is not due to the fact that the golf gods are tormenting them and wanting them to fail. It's not. It's nothing like that. You have every opportunity to succeed. We just need to often let go of the pressures, let go of the anchors that we have and the shackles, and just be you. Like, be free. You're a great player. You're capable of certainly better play than this. Just let it happen. And the number of times I've had players tell me that they've started off poorly and then they've gone lights out after that, after 3 or 4, let's say, poor holes. And it's generally because they've just let go of any pre-round expectations. Because that is one thing that golfers of any age can often do, is they can enter a round with an expectation of score or performance, and as soon as one bad thing happens, all of a sudden it's like, okay, my perfect round is over. Yep. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, now I can't do this, and I lost my swing. And it's like, it's not as simple as that. Like, just calm down. Let's relax. Let's hit one good shot. Let's lock in. Let's hit one good 7-iron, whatever the case is, and then move forward from there.
I like the code word aspect too, because I feel like a lot of times comparing sports, I mean, other sports like a basketball or a soccer, you might not get that chance to reset after each hole. I mean, because soccer's 90 minutes of constant play, basketball is super fast paced. You might get a timeout here or there, but I mean, you get essentially 18 tries in golf to do it. So having like a little bit of a reminder in there. And I also like the fact that you said, as a coach, parent, whatever it is, I think between each hole, it's probably a bad idea to go full depth, like for an actual tournament, full depth coaching, kind of ripping them a new one for whatever bad happened. It's just, they have to pick themselves up, but the little reminders and the little hints to stay present and to keep on track, I think that's really smart, as opposed to just, letting them figure it out on their own or spiraling, especially if a kid doesn't have the mentality yet to bounce back on their own. So that's really cool, man.
For sure. Well, we can almost guarantee that if we're in our own head and we're basically our own worst enemy. Like, I've had this conversation with students before, where it's like, do you like yourself when you're talking to yourself like that? Like, is that something that you enjoy, telling yourself how bad you are? Is that something that you want going forward? And also, like, how do you think you'd perform if all you're doing is basically coming down on yourself and being so negative? Like, let's find our ideal performance state. Like, where are we there? Are we super excited off the wall, or are we just in like a calm mind? Everything's just like in control. We're in control of our breath. We're taking in our surroundings. We're relaxed. Shoulders are down. Like, we're walking at a normal pace. Like, so much of it is physiological. Like, again, you can see this stuff so easily with junior golfers. You can see the ones, you almost don't even need the scoreboard. You can just look at the field and go, that player's having a good day. And little Timmy over there, he's having a rough one.
For young athletes especially. I mean, pros can probably hold it together a little more, but the range of 8 to 16, I mean, and this is what it is. You're growing up and learning, but they're probably wearing it on their sleeve more than in a pro would. So,
yeah.
What about maybe not a coaching topic, but a more kind of fun day-to-day topic for golf? I've seen it a lot now on social media. Seems to be that the golf etiquette is changing a bit. I don't know if it's good or bad, but I kind of before show I was researching and I saw there's a big viral clip going around of Rory snapping back at a fan in the U.S. for like trash talking. What's your take, having played golf, coached golf for a while, on like the development of trash talk and kind of fan engagement in the game? Do you think it's a good thing, or is the old school golf where everybody's just incredibly quiet and kind of claps nicely after a nice hit? Is that the way to go? I'm
definitely more new school, but I think that there still needs to be limitations on what is respectful. And I love banter, especially in a Ryder Cup setting. I love the energy that can bring, and I think that that's one of the things that makes that event really exciting to watch and follow, is the fact that there is almost like an advantage of the hometown crowd, like there is in other sports. Like there's a mathematical advantage in basketball if you're the home team, and Ryder Cup the same way. So I think that getting the crowd involved is a great thing. There just needs to be a sense of respect in how people do it, and when it comes down, like some of the stuff that was said to players, and especially players' wives, some of the stuff that was said, it's like, we wouldn't be saying this stuff if we were looking at these people across from us. Yeah. Like, it's kind of the keyboard warriors that are going to anonymously throw jabs at people online. It's probably the same crowd, And I wonder how much of it is that kind of like group mentality and maybe a couple drinks to kind of loosen any inhibitions, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, anything goes. Whereas, yeah, that's the stuff that I think is we just need to get better at.
I agree. I mean, I think it's fun. It brings a lot of liveliness to the game, especially for that kind of setting. Other tournaments, Masters, I'm sure you got to kind of go based on the feel of the overall crowd. But a Ryder Cup is supposed to
Sure.
be engaging, so I think it's fun. But you have to draw a line, and I'm sure there's a lot of like social media, and especially with the way Happy Gilmore 2 came out this summer. I'm sure a lot more of that's you see it in a movie. It's like I might try it when I'm there and be funny, and then you realize as you're saying it,
Exactly.
hopefully someone was like, "Why did I say that?" and reflected. So I think for the next time around, I'd like to see the engagement, but not so negative. And good for Rory for calling it out too. I mean, if you let that slide, it's only going to get worse. So
Yeah, exactly.
maybe my last question, Alex, and I didn't plan to ask this one, but it's kind of a funny trend now I've seen with two people. But actually, I played pro basketball in Ireland, and the reason I bring that up is Rory actually sponsored the program that I was in, so I got to meet him about 10 years ago. Great guy, and again, he kind of paved the way for all of us to go over to Ireland and play pro basketball and get a grad school scholarship. So I like Rory in general, but also for that. But I know his backstory of how he grew up, working at a golf course. Love the game because of that. His dad, I think, his dad also had a job there. Maybe that's part of the story. But
Yeah,
it sounds like
all
Rory
even
spent a lot of
golf.
time. Yep, that's
Yeah.
what it is. He spent a lot of time there as a kid, and it sounds like you had a similar experience. You got a job at a golf course. So is that a recommendation to parents maybe who don't have access to golf? Like it's an easy way to get your kid involved with the game if they know that they want to play golf and they like it as a parent, but again, they maybe don't have the opportunity to become a member at a club or like sign up for lessons every weekend. Is that kind of like a sneaky way to
Yeah,
help your kid love the game and get access to it?
100%. I think that if you're a young kid looking for whether it's a summer job, like that is such an incredible opportunity to be able to not only are you able to then constantly be around like typically people of good financial means, which you're going to learn some very very good life lessons just from that organically, but you're also probably going to have good opportunities to maybe pick up the game. And
Yeah.
I think there's tons of life lessons that could be learned just in playing the game as well. So yeah, that would be one of if we were deciding between a job at Starbucks and a job at a golf course, I would definitely lean towards the golf course for sure.
Very fair. I think anything outside. I know I did landscaping in high school. Anything outside, because you're going to be most likely as an adult nowadays, probably behind a computer somehow, some way. So whether it's a golf course, landscaping, just get outside, enjoy the sun, and like you said, meet a lot of really cool people along the way. And if you can pick up a golf tip here or there and not be terrible in your 30s like me, it's a huge advantage when you're 15, 16. So
Yeah,
that's really
it's
cool.
one of those very rare kind of sports for a lifetime, and like there's so much to be learned in the game. It's such a common sort of linkage of conversation. Like you go meet people all the time, and it's like you golf, oh, instantly like there's a connection, right? And it there's not a lot of sports like that. Like a lot of other sports, you could be very very good at it, but it is difficult to maybe to relate to. But golf seems to always be the
Yep.
one that everyone's interested in, and it's the sport that almost every athlete that's looking for a secondary, like a safe secondary sport or a sport that's like after retirement, they all end up playing golf.
Yeah, it's become so popular. I know when I was a kid growing up, not many of us played golf, and now all those same kids that I'm friends with, everyone loves golfing, and they're already saying for us who have boys, even girls, they're going to get them involved with golf at an early age just to kind of understand the game. So, yeah, I think it's a really good thing for kids to learn and have that as a skill growing up, whether it's work or networking or friendship. I mean, everyone wants to get out there. It's such a good way to kind of relax and take your mind off real life for a bit. So,
Absolutely.
well, honestly, Alex, this was a ton of fun, man. I think we have a lot of good snippets to share for our audience. Life tips, golf tips, kind of how to handle yourself too. And I think everything, the trends we're seeing, maybe I'll end on this, whether it's golf, whether it's basketball, whether it's soccer, I think you touched on a lot of really good mental points today and attitude. I mean, I think for every parent and young athlete listening, if they can consistently hear the high level athletes and coaches that we have on, it seems like everyone boils things down to that. I mean, you can have the skills, you can be a good player, but to be a great player, I think the adults in the room who know what it takes to get there, it comes down to mentality. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to share those clips about what people can do to actually achieve that status and chase their goals. Because again, you can lift or work out or train all you want, but if you don't have the mental piece, I mean, you're not really going to go as far as you want. So yeah, appreciate you coming on, man. The feedback was awesome, and I can't wait to get this out.
Thanks a lot. I enjoyed it. That was great.